Alright, so I don't have the beginning part of this. However, all I did really was take off the panels for this PS4, but as you can see, it's very, very dirty. It's got a busted HDMI port right there. We're gonna go ahead and swap that out today, so I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. Okay, we got a good bit off there. Alright. So I always start with the power supply. I got a bunch of PS5 parts in here. Let's move those out of the way. So I always take the power supply off first. Well, I don't take that out, but I take all the screws out of it first. Once I got all the screws out of that, flip it over. And we got to take certain screws out of here in order to get that power supply out. So we're going to go ahead and disassemble this. This version of the PS4 is frustrating. Pretty dirty. Yuck. I got some of this dust in my mouth. Disgusting. Alright, so for the most part, it's got T9 screws. However, it's also got regular screws, which is the most frustrating thing ever. I wish they would have just stuck with one screw, but we'll do it. And these ones are small, so you have 1, 2, 3. On this one, you have 3 of those small ones, and they're near the back up here. So we get those ones out. You got black screws throughout here as well. There's not that many on this one, thankfully. A lot of the PS4 Slims, not a lot of them, but all of them, have a ton of screws in them. And it's probably besides the Xbox Series X, that is the longest console to fix and disassemble. Alright, let's see. Okay, now we can take the power supply out. You just want to make sure you get all those big screws in the back so that you can get this out. And there's this little connector here, 3 ribbons, and this little cable here, or this little connector here that connects to the motherboard. That is the Wi-Fi, I believe. I'm not sure. Can't remember. This thing is always a pain to get out, especially if they've never been worked on before. But that thing's pretty dirty too. We'll go ahead and wipe that off. And you just gotta disconnect all these bad boys. So I'm gonna pull this one out. These two just pull out. And this one here in the middle, you have to lift up this character here. Come on now. Lift up, and then you can pull that one out. And for these little guys, you can do it by hand too, but I'm just gonna do it by the tweezers. So they just pop off, just like that. Now that that's popped off, I'm gonna flip it back over and finish taking the rest of the screws out of here. So this one has a variety of screws. It also has these rounded top screws, but it's only got 2 of those on this little metal plate here. And then it's got the black screw in that corner, another black screw. Let's see. Alright, now we can pop this bad boy up. Take that out, dirty as usual. And that's extremely dirty as well. So let's see here. Oh, I got one more. I believe that's the last one. We'll see. Oop. Yep, there it is. Yeah, thing's just about as dirty on the inside as it is on the outside. Let's brush that off real quick. Now we got that brushed off. This is where the hard drive connects. These little guys right here slide right into there. When you go to put it in, just slide right in. We're gonna disconnect this ribbon right here and take these two screws out. Lift that bad boy out, lift this guy up, and now we can undo the fan connector right here and lift up on this, maybe, there we go, and then just slide out. So this one was supposed to have a power button here. They, I think they broke it. I'm gonna see if I have any more. If not, that's fine, because they can always turn it on with their controllers, or by halfway inserting a disc you can turn it on. So I'm gonna brush this off a little bit, and then we'll check out what this HDMI port has going for us. Now that we have that brushed off there so it won't catch fire, we need to access this port, so we'll take this off. I normally don't put those back on, but in this case I will put it back on. So there's the port there, it's split, and then the tab is broken on the inside. So we're going to put some forks on that. Do the mount here. Heat that up. So as this heats up, I do the same thing as I do with every other console, which is the feet that connect the HDMI port to the motherboard. I heat it up, and as I heat it up, I apply my solder to it, so it will soften the solder that's already on there and make it easier for removal. Alright, so we got solder in the back one, solder in the front one. Now we'll do it to the other side as well. Solder in the back, solder in the front. Occasionally I will put a solder on the back too, on the pads, if I'm having trouble removing the port. However, these ones are usually pretty simple to remove, so I'll keep heating that up and see what we can get out of here. After this phone call. Bam. Alright. Now we gotta reheat this. Once the solder turns to a fluid, it will be easier to get out. Sometimes with these PS4s, whenever the HDMI port splits like this, I have to squeeze the port back together in order to get it out. Let's see if we can go without doing that on this one. Yeah, we may have to squeeze this one. Let's see. Oh, popped right off. There we are. That's the broken port there. Now we're gonna suction these holes out. You gotta be careful on these ones. Make sure you don't knock any of these components off. Or suck them up. You don't want to suck them up inside of here. Alright. Let's check this out. Hopefully those aren't ripped pads. If that's the case, that's not good. We will have to see. Alright, so this is the port we just removed. As you can see, well, not see anymore, but as you can see there, you can see that some of those look a little bit darker, which most of the time just means that the solder got pulled off. Like right, that one, those two, and those two. Sometimes it can mean that the pads are also ripped up, but it looks like it just doesn't have any more solder on it. So now that the board's cooled down a little bit, we put some flux on there. What we're gonna do is we're gonna add some solder to those pads. We want them to be nice and shiny. So I'm gonna put a big old glob on our soldering iron like so. And let's go ahead and focus. Just gonna run this through here. So as you can see there, it kind of globbed up, and that's because I was staying in one spot too long, and the purpose of that was to make sure we got solder on those pads that had absolutely no more solder on them. So we're just going to add some more flux there. And now it should just roll on and leave it with a nice shiny area. So here you can see there is now solder on every single one of those pads. Alright, so we have the port pre-tenned on the little feet there. And so what we're going to do Just pop it right in there. And these ones are my least favorite ports. They never want to fit right. But this one seemed to go in just fine. Probably because I'm taking a video of it. So now we're going to heat it up. And because of the solder on the port itself and the solder that we put on the board, it should adhere properly. The nice thing about these boards is they heat up real quick. Alright, now that we've got those in place, we're going to go ahead and turn her over and put some solder on the feet of the port. It doesn't look like it wants to stick on some of these. So what we'll do, so what we'll do is we'll take a razor blade, and with that razor blade, we will scratch next to the feet. That way it exposes the copper for the solder to be able to connect to it. Just want to be mindful of the components that are around the feet. You don't want to get solder on them, and you don't want to hit them with the razor blade, because that will mess it up for sure. Alright, so now let's try to put some solder on there. Yeah, now it's sticking a little bit. I have to leave it on there just a little bit longer. No, not one to stick. Let's get some new solder. This usually only happens with PS4s. Nothing against PS4. I think there's some of the best consoles that have been put out. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to clean that up a little bit because that looks like garbage. So let's get some alcohol and clean that up. It's probably just dirty, that's why it won't stick. Alright. Now I'm gonna add some flux to it as well. It usually helps it stick a little better, so I'm gonna put some flux there. It's nice using not a Q-tip, but a toothpick to do this. You can just roll it, and it just goes right on it and right in those holes. Alright, now we'll take this and clear it off a little bit, get it nice and shiny there. And try to put some solder on there. like I said, these are my least favorite ports. And this is one of the reasons. Alright. Now that we've got that, I should be able to use the heat gun and blow those up into the little holes there. Alright, so we got that secured. Had to stop the video because the customer came in. But we got the port on there. Now we're going to clean that bad boy up, and we'll clean it off on the frame too and apply some new thermal paste on there. Alright, so we got the new thermal paste applied here, both on the board and on the frame. I also cleaned this up a little bit because it was disgusting. So we're just going to throw this bad boy in here. You never want to go in the first time. You gotta kind of shimmy it, shimmy, shimmy. There it goes. Perfect. Alright, we gotta make sure we connect everything back together that we took apart. We're gonna thread this little ribbon up through here. Some technical difficulties. Fingers don't want to work. And there we are. So on this PS4 model, this goes straight on the board. And this puts pressure on the APU. And if you don't have this on there, it will not work. It'll give you the blue light of death. These things can get the blue light of death even if you just take this off. So there's always a risk, especially if the console has experienced extreme heat, which this one doesn't look like it has. It is just really dirty. We're gonna move these little thermal pads here back into the middle. They're already on here in a good spot, so we will throw this on. Maybe. Yep, there it goes. Alright, we'll screw this down. Those mini screws, get the mini screws back in place. Normally I like to test it and only put a couple of screws in first and then test it. However, the customer is waiting as I tell them it only takes about 45 minutes, which is true. It's just I'm recording, and now that I'm recording, it takes a little bit longer. So we're gonna have to hustle up on this and get this thing put back together quick so they don't get frustrated. I'm just gonna have to hope that my installation worked properly. Once you do this so much, you start to remember where each one of these goes, which ones to leave blank, and which ones to put screws in. So, alright, so now that that's secured, we're going to go ahead and flip this over, put these ribbons back in, make sure that this is lifted up. And then put this ribbon in. And then push it down. Now that ribbon's secured, and we want to put in the smaller ribbon over here. And just push that one in, just like so. And we'll connect this little thing back up here. This little antenna. Boop, just like that. And then we'll throw the power supply in. Once we have the power supply in, we can go ahead and screw that down. Oh, no, we can't. Not yet, actually. So, we need to flip this back over. And we're going to put in the screws here on the bottom to hold the power supply in. But we can't forget to put this little character back in there, because this is what the power supply screws into. So put that down there, put the plastic plate back on top of it, and we'll secure that. I try not to go full throttle on the trigger on PS4s, because if you do, it could strip them out really easy, especially because the plastic is brittle and old from heat over time. So let's put these, we'll put all the black screws back in. There and here. Put that one back in. Remember, a black screw goes right here. So you got a big screw, one of the T9s, black screw, and then you got the two weird looking bulb screws, and those two characters go right there and right there. This PS4 is actually in pretty good condition, even though it was extremely dirty, which is a good thing. And you can tell just by how these screws go in, none of them seem to be free spinning, and none of them are stripped out. So let's put the hard drive back in, and we'll screw that down. Screw, 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 screw. Alright. Oh, now we gotta secure the power supply down. So we're gonna put this plate back on and drop these screws in there. Screw those bad Larrys in. Screw, screw, screw. Screw. Alright, now we put in the T9 screws. 1, 2, 3. There's 3 of those. A lot of these PS4s are different too. Ugh, that's disgusting. I'm gonna try to clean that out a little bit before I put it all together. So yeah, let me clean that out. Alright, just to show you this is hair. That's hair and skin and a bunch of nasty stuff. And that's what makes these consoles get the blue light of death. It makes them overheat over time. And that looks a lot better. Alright, now we're going to put the plastics back on. So this is the bottom. We're going to slide that character like that, and just boom. Good to go. Press it on. Good to go. Screw that in. Put this top one on. And this one has 3 screws in it, 2 silver on top, 1 black in the back. Normally that one's stripped out, so I'm surprised that it's not. There we are, and this one just slides in here, just like that. And we'll put this black one on the top, and she'll be good to go. Alright, let's go test it. Alright, because this one is missing that power button, we gotta turn it on with the disc, like so. Let's hope it comes up, because I'll put this thing all the way back together. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Normally I don't like putting these back together until I've tested them, but since the customer is waiting, I decided to go ahead and put this one back together, and it works.